Okay, I want to show you how to make what I'm going to call a corset sock. It is a toe up with a Kitchener cast on with a kiss toe and heel, and we are creating loops and purl lines, and I am doing a hemmed finish. So you have your hemmed finish, which you can add elastic to so that it doesn't slip off your foot. And this is more like a crew sock height, and you can add a lace to it. I'm going to be doing more than that, but I'm going to show you how to loom knit this, and it looks pretty even without the lacing to it. Okay. But what I want to do is show you how to do lacing that you can add around the edge here and inside for a lace top, along with you can do any kind of lacing you want. I just chose to do a simple shoelace to kind of go up and show you what it's about. Okay, this is not too bad of a pattern. It's probably about intermediate level. Just because you're doing a Kitchener cast on, you're doing a kiss toe and heel, and you have this section that you're creating here and the hemmed. Now you can do this the reverse. You can do this down from here down, but you have to reverse everything. Okay. And you can do a Kitchener close down here. Alright, so I am going to be using the 7/16 36 peg loom. Okay, so the 7/16 36 peg loom with the new pegs, and they are lovely. They have a nice texture to them. The yarn does not stick to them, and they work up nicely. Okay, so I am using Ferris wheel and Lions brand, and it is a size 4 worsted weight, and one skein should make the whole thing. And this color, if you're interested in it, is called Sprinkles. Okay, so if you like this color, you're looking for Sprinkles. Alright, so let's get started. When doing a Kitchener cast on, you go to the opposite side of the loom to start. So there's ways you can go about doing this where you line it up. Okay, you know that's in between there, you don't have to count it out, although you may want to count it out. Okay, so we know we want to go in between these. Okay, and you may want to put a stitch marker in here. So I marked my halfway point, exactly the opposite, and you can see when you look at it, it is exactly the opposite of the other side. Okay. Now, what I like to do is send it through and just lay the yarn down. Now, depending on which way you knit, alright, I tend to knit like a left-hander and also the way you read. But if you are one who prefers to do it the other way, I'll tell you how that starts to wrap. Now, if you're a left-hander and you're doing Kitchener, you're going to start by wrapping the left side first. Okay, now if you're right-handed, you're going to start by wrapping the right-hand side first. Okay, so because I'm left-handed, I'm wrapping the left side first, and this wrap really does make a difference as to which direction you're going. Although I've done it by accident the other way and had to go in and reverse it when I was doing my heel. Alright, so always front to back. So front to back. Front to back. Front to back. Okay. Front to back, front to back, front to back, front to back. Yes, this does create waste yarn. And there's many techniques you can use if you don't want to do this technique. This is just one I'm using because a lot of people find that the Kitchener cast on is really easy. So front to back, front to back, front to back, front to back, front to back. Okay. All the way over. Okay. And there. Alright, once you get that, which is the easiest way to do that, you're going to turn it around. Okay. And now, you're going to toss those loops over. Now, make sure you toss the whole loop. If you do not, tightening it later will be almost near impossible. Okay, so important note to make. Alright, be aware when you start getting closer to your starting point, you may need to hold your tail in place. Okay, but be very careful to make sure you get the whole loop when you toss it over. Okay, whole loop. And with this, we want to do, now normally I say the setup is just do the one row and you start. Because we're doing the kiss, toe, and heel, it's going to be a little different. Okay, so you're going to go 2 rounds, well, a round and a half. Okay. With this pattern, keep in mind you do the toe on one side and the heel on the other half. Okay. So you'll have to keep that in mind when you're doing your heel and toe on this pattern. Alright. Putting it back on there, make sure that it is not twisted. Right. Okay. Now, typically the Kitchener cast on finishes at this point. And you get all the way around. Okay. But we're doing what they call a twin knit. Okay. And it's basically an increase. So in order to be able to do that nice and neatly, we're going to do another whole round, which means the bottom will have basically a couple more rows than the top. But that's okay, it does not affect its look. Alright. So you're going to go in and do your knit around, and then we'll be able to start on our toe. Once I show you how to do the toe, when we get to the heel, I'll prep you, but then I'm not going to guide you as much once we get to the heel. I'm going to kind of leave it to you. And most of the sock is a high repeat. So while this is taking longer, there's a reason to get started, but it makes it to where the hard parts make sense. Okay, so we're almost there. Alright, so here is how a kiss, toe, and heel works. Because I don't know that I've actually shown this independently. Okay, so here's how this works. You're going to knit your way over to 17 pegs. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Now, what you want to do now is you want to go in, and we'll see how well I can do this. Okay, you see a stitch here, and you see a stitch here. You want to lift that top stitch. Now grab it. Make sure your working yarn is inside the loom when you do this. Okay? You're going to pull that stitch back. Keep hold, don't release. Take your working yarn, move it in front of the peg. Then simply place the stitch you pulled back where it goes. Then you're going to go in, and you're not going to knit that. You're going to slip behind it, and you're going to knit your way over to the starting peg. Okay. Now this decreasing is normal, like any other heel. It's when you go to start increasing out that it changes, and I'll explain how that change works. Okay. And you come over here to just before the starting peg, which is your white peg. Right. Now, again, I'm trying to make this visible. Make sure your working yarn is inside the loom. Now, you see this stitch here. You want to pull that top stitch right here. You want to grab that top stitch and you want to pull it over. Okay? Place the working yarn in front of the peg. Then place the stitch you just pulled back where it goes. Always keep hold of the stitch on the peg. It keeps up with where you need to replace it. Alright, so you want to knit your way back to just before the last twin knit is what it's called. This is based off the fish lips heel and toe, but because it's not done exactly like it is on needles, this is just the kiss heel, okay, and toe. Okay, so here's our last one. And you'll know it because it has 2 stitches on it, okay? You're always wanting to lift the top stitch. Okay, let me see if I can get that to clear. There. You're always wanting to lift that top stitch, the very top. Okay? So you want to grab that top stitch and pull it over. Place in front, pull down and release. Now you can do this sock on a different sizing. I will include the formula in the pattern if you want to use a different loom. Maybe you want to use a finer gauge. I will include how to do this pattern on a finer gauge. Right? So normally on a toe or a heel, you divide the loom in half. Then you take that number that you have and you divide it by 3. And so for this loom, because it's 36, half of your pegs is 18, and then divided by 3 is 6. So you should have 6 twin knits, 6 single stitches, and 6 twin knits to do the heel when you're decreasing. Okay? Find your top stitch, making sure your working yarn is in the middle of the loom. Okay? So you're going to pull that over, put the working yarn in front, wrap it around, and replace that stitch. It puts in a really nice toe, and you don't get holes with this type of toe either. And you don't get lines or anything like that. It puts in something that's very smooth, and it isn't likely to break a peg. The problem I found with the German short row, it's a little too tight, and you risk breaking pegs. And not all brands are strong, okay, with their pegs. So we're not going to stress our pegs if we can help it. Okay, so again, you pull the top stitch over and place the working yarn and place back. You continue this until you have 6 twin stitches, 6 single, and 6 twin on this half of the loom. So I'm going to tell you to pause the video and complete that much, and then we will move on to the next section of the toe. Okay, I'll show you one more time, and that will have completed 3 and 3, and you just need to do 3 more on the other side and 3 more on this side. Okay, and we'll complete our 6. Alright, one more time. Top stitch over, place working yarn in front, and release. I think this is well worth it to complete this and to see what you're doing. Okay, let's look at this. You don't have any, it just looks like a continuous of a curvature around. Okay, so it has a very nice flow to it. Alright, so go ahead and pause the video and complete your 6. So you're going to have 6 twin stitches here, 6 single stitches, and 6 twin stitches. Alright, so pause the video and get that much done, and when we come back, I will show you how to do the next section and then the increase, okay? Okay, so I completed that, and let's see, so we can get that in here. Okay, so as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 single stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to see I stopped here right before the 6 twin stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright. Now, you may want to use a stitch marker in here, and I'll explain why. Okay. It's going to be easier to know where you need to pick back up again, because your increases you're not going to see so easily, because you're not going to do this like a typical sock. Let's see if we can get this around here. Okay, what I'm going to do is go ahead and knit that over so I can get in there. And you'll probably want to mark stitch marker stuff anyway. Okay, let me pull that back through. Get this in here a little easier. Okay, now we can put that right back where it goes. There we go. Okay, so you're going to know you're going to need to go back and start doing your twin knit stitch right there when you go to your increasing. Okay, so at this point, what you want to do is you want to knit all the way around. Knit all the way around again and stop. just before the stitch marker. Alright, so what you are doing is allowing yourself a single stitch to start doing the increasing. Okay. And you're just going to knit your way around. And it's important to do it twice, or you'll be sitting here getting frustrated trying to twin knit when you've got 2 stitches sitting there on you. So this gets it back to 1 stitch, and then the next row gets it back to where you will see what you're doing a little easy. Okay, so now you're back to your starting point and you want to knit all the way around. Okay, and when you get to those twin stitches, you knit just both stitches over. Okay, real simple. Knit both stitches over. Okay, knit your way around, and then we will be able to get started again. Okay. And it's going to be a little differently on the heel because it's going to be on the other half. But you just need to remember that you need to go in and reset everything back to 1, and then give yourself a stitch to work off of. So basically 2 rounds. So I'm going to knit our way around. And again, this produces a really nice toe and heel, and it's well worth it. And I don't really think it's any more difficult than the others. It's just got an extra step in there and something to keep up with. Okay. Back at our starting point again. Push everything down. Now we're going to start twin knitting again. Okay. But this time we're going to go and work our way in and out. In the middle and out. So here's, I'm going to knit over to just before our stitch marker. Okay. Alright. Now we're going to stop and put your yarn in the middle of the loom. Okay. You're going to grab your top stitch right there. You see it? You're going to grab it and pull it back. And then you're going to put the working yarn in front and you're going to place it back. Now, you're going to go back the other direction. You're going to count 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you're going to do a twin knit. Working yarn in the middle of the loom. Find that top stitch. Should be right there. You're going to pull it back over. And you're going to do your twin knit like you've been doing. Okay, here's how this works a little differently than the decrease. You're going to knit your 6 over, and you're going to knit the twin stitch together, twin knit. Alright, so you're going to knit your 6, then you're going to knit your twin knit together. Okay, then you're going to have your working yarn in the middle. You're going to find your top stitch right here. You're going to pull it over. You're going to place that working yarn in front and wrap it around and replace that stitch. Then you're going to knit your way over, and this time it's knitting 7 and then knit your twin knit those 2 stitches together, and then do the next one, and you see a pattern developing here. Okay. So put the working yarn in the middle, grab the top stitch, pull it back, working yarn in the front of the peg, and place the stitch back. Then you're going to knit your way around, go to the next twin knit that you just did, knit the 2 together. So you see the pattern developing, and you're just going to continue this process. So just knit the twin knit together over here, find your top stitch, pull it back, working yarn in front. And it's real easy to see where you left off, and you just keep going back and forth until you get to your 18th peg over here. Okay, so I'm going to show you one more time. We're going to work our way back to the other twin knit, and I'm going to tell you to pause the video and continue this until you twin knit that 18th stitch. All right. Here's your twin knit, knit together, get your top stitch, make sure your working yarn is in the center of the peg, pull back, working yarn in front, and release. And you just keep going and going until you reach your 18th peg over here, which is this one right here. Okay, you may want to stitch mark it. Alright, so you may want to mark that. You can probably go ahead and move this marker off of there, and if you find it's going to be easier to keep up, you can put the marker here, and that way you know that you got to get to a twin knit here. Okay? Alright, so keep going back and forth. Get to your twin knit, knit the 2 stitches together, and then twin knit the next one. Work your way back, just like we've been doing. Continue the process until you get to the 18th peg. Now, because we're doing this side first, you may end up over here. After you do that one, knit your way over here and twin knit. That will probably be, so you'll twin knit this one, come back over here and twin knit this one, stop. And this is where we'll finish up the kiss toe. Okay, at this point you have a twin knit here, and you have a twin knit here. Okay, and you have just increased out. Now, what you want to do is you just want to knit your way all the way around, and when you get to the twin knit, you want to knit the 2 together. Okay, and then you're going to knit your way around to the starting point. Then you're basically going to knit for 10 rows. Okay. When you toss those last twin knits over, going around, you have officially completed your kiss toe. You will do this same process on the opposite side, and I will explain how the knitting around alters doing it on the opposite side. Okay, so I just knitted the 2 knit. I'm going to knit my way over. Okay, we're back to our starting point. We're going to knit that twin stitch over, and then we're going to knit our way around. You're going to knit your way around. Then you're going to do 10 rows of knit. Okay. So this basically completes your twin knit. And so we have basically completed this much. Now, once you do your 10 rows, which is just this through here, all right, then you'll be able to tighten up the Kitchener. Okay. Now, the reason why I do the toe not on the same side as the heel is so that when you do the Kitchener, that change of color, that direct change of color, is not so obvious. And also, if you have something that doesn't go quite so smoothly, you don't have to feel like you've wasted the entire time on the sock. It's on the bottom, so nobody sees it. So this is also the reason why I do the toe on one side and the heel on the other. So that if you mess up in any way, and if you have a color change right here, it doesn't show on the top side, which keeps it a nice, smooth, pretty look on the top. Okay? So go ahead, knit your way around, and then do 10 rows of knit, just normal knit. Nothing special. 10 rows. Okay? When we come back, I will start showing you how to do the, I believe it's a 5-row repeat, and we'll have to have some stitch markers. So get your stitch markers set up so we can set up our stitch markers. All right? I think you'll need 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 4. Yeah. I think you'll need 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. You'll need 4 stitch markers. So you'll need to know how to purl. You'll need to know how to do an E-wrap chain and bring an original loop back. So actually you'll want a total of 6 so that you can easily see which loop you're supposed to bring back. Okay. So right now you're doing this section, which is just 10 straight rows of knit, and then we'll be to this repeat section here. And once you know this section, you know the next section that is after the heel. Okay. All right, so pause the video and get that much done, and then we'll come back. Okay, I have completed 10 rows of knit, and now I'm ready to start on this section here. You want to, your stitch markers, you want to put a marker on the first peg, and counting the first peg, you're going to count over 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to put a stitch marker on the next peg. Okay, then you know your halfway point over here. You're going to count it. You're going to put a stitch marker, should already be there. You're going to count over 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and put a stitch marker on the next peg. These will be your purl pegs, and these center ones will be your E-wrap chain pegs. Okay. Now, I'm going to show how that works. This is row 1 of a 6-row set. So you're going to purl the first one, and then you're going to knit 5. Okay. This is where a stitch marker is going to be useful, because you're going to be bringing up your original stitch. So go ahead and put a stitch marker on the stitch. All right. You're now going to E-wrap chain 5. So here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, here's 4, and here's 5. You're going to bring that original loop back up onto the loom, take it off, and then you're going to toss the bottom loop over. And that creates a loop. Now you're going to knit 4. place the stitch marker on the stitch and ear up chain 5. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then you're going to place the stitch marker back up onto the peg, which is you bring your original loop back, toss the bottom loop over. I like to pull that a little bit. That creates your next loop. Then you're going to knit 5. And purl the marker row. Okay, and then you're going to knit 18 all the way around. Okay, this is the first row of a 6-row set. The other 5 rows are exactly the same, and it's easy. And you'll just repeat this 2 more times. After you do your full 6 rows. Okay, I'm going to show you what the next row is. And this next row is repeated 5 times. So purl 1, knit 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, purl 1, knit 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, purl 1, knit 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, purl 1, knit 18. You're going to repeat this row a total of 5 times. Then you go back and you do the first row of the set, and then this row another 5 times. Okay. And then you'll do that a total of 3 times, so that you have 3 loops, the break of 3. Now you'll want to go ahead and repeat the first row of the 6-row set, and then we'll be ready to start on our heel. Okay, so repeat this row 5 times and you'll have completed your 6-row set. Then go back to row 1 of this set, do it, and then 5 rows. And you're going to repeat that again 1 more time, and then what you'll do is repeat the stitch marker loop 1. So repeat the first row and then come back. Okay, and then we'll be ready to start our heel section. So right now, when you complete that first section, you should be here, and then you're going to complete 2 more sections. Okay, and that'll put you just under here. When you complete that one, you're ready to start your heel on the next row. Okay, so pause the video and get to here, and then we'll be ready to start on our heel. Okay, now you've done technically enough rows to start closing up your Kitchener. You want to find your tail, okay, which is on this side, and you're going to go to the opposite side. Alright, you're going to find your very first loop, and you're just going to slightly tug. Don't just start yanking, just slightly tug, so you know you've got that one tightened. So you want to find the next string and slightly tug. Now, I've pulled from the top, I'm pulling from the bottom here, okay? Alright, now it's an up-down, it's like a heartbeat. Going up and down a hill. Alright, you're going to find the next one, you're going to slightly tug it, and make sure you're pulling the right side. And you're going to be pulling from the top. You're going to find the next one, slightly tug it, It's pulling from the bottom. So you're going to pull from the bottom. Grab the next one, slightly tug, and pull. If you don't see that moving, let's say you accidentally grab this one and you start to pull and you don't see it moving, you know you've got the wrong one. But if you see it moving, you've got the right one. Okay? And it's like a heartbeat. Up, down, up, down. It's pretty easy until you get to the other side, and then you have to be really careful on your pulls. But only tug lightly to start. If you start pulling hard, then that's how you get knots, and then you can't fix it. Okay, when you start getting over to here, this is where a light tug is going to be important, because you can end up pulling things too tight, and then when you go to pull the actual tail, you lose track, and this is how the knot happens. A lot of people can get all the way to this point and then find they get stuck. Be careful of your tail trying to get in there. Okay. So this is where it's important to gently tug and make sure that you've got the next one, because we're getting into that very tight area, and we should have about 2 or 3 more to do. It's when you get over into here that it gets a little bit more difficult to keep up. But if you don't rush it, you won't have any problems. Okay. Okay, here's where you need to figure out if you've got one more to pull. And I have one more to pull, and then I can pull my tail. Okay, and that is how you go about tightening your Kitchener cast on. Alright. I'm sorry I had to cut the video. The house awakens, and so there's the noise. But you pull the tail and you have it. You can cut all that excess off and leave yourself enough to weave in, okay? And since you're so close to the inside, you can go ahead and weave it in, and that way you don't have to worry about it later, okay? So at this point, there's your toe, and you can see that it has a really nice, beautiful, clean look about it. So that's how you tighten your cast on, okay? Okay, so I have completed that far, and you may find that your little nodule things that you make, your little lace loops, are hidden. What you want to do is you just want to grab the little knot and pull it up, and it'll pull through, okay? And if it's really buried, like this one is, you just kind of push on it, and then you can pull it through gently with your hook, and it'll come through just like that. That's how I get them through. Okay. Okay. So that explains how to do that. Okay. So there is a 4th one up in there that I just completed. Okay. So I've completed this row that creates these, and now I'm ready to do the heel. So here's how this works. You want to keep up with your purl sections here, and the reason why I started with the actual loophole is so that you don't have to worry about doing that. Okay, all you have to worry about is the sections where you're supposed to knit. Okay, So you keep doing the front section like normal, but we're working the heel on the other half. Okay, but you'll always want to keep up with how your front section is, where you purl and where you knit, and that should be fairly easy because you've got it stitch marked out. Okay, so here is how this is going to work. So you get your first half done like we just did, where you did the purl 1, knit 5, purl 1, knit 4, purl 1, knit 5, purl 1. Okay, we've done that. Now here starts our heel, and this is going to work just like we did on this half, but it's going to be on this half, and the in-between stuff is going to be a little adjusted. So you're going to knit your way over to just before the last peg in the row. Okay. And once you get started with your twin knits, it's really easy to go from there. You can just kind of smoothly go into it from there. And so here's what you want to do. You want to knit your way over, and I'll get you started with this. And once you get started, you can get down to the 6, and then I'll show you how it varies. So there I am just before my last stitch. All right, so again, what do I pick up? I pick up that top stitch like that, and I pull it over, put the working yarn in front, and place it back. And then I go back the other direction. Okay, and then I will stop just before my stitch marker peg, because I know that's my halfway point. Okay, so when you stitch marker, you're kind of giving yourself a little idea of how to keep up with things easier. Okay, so we'll work our way over here, and I'll show you how to do a twin knit. And then you're going to do it just like you did over here, when you're decreased down on twin knits. And I'm going to pause the video and tell you to get that far, because we've already done this section and it's no different. When it's no different, then I just leave you to it. Okay. So, put the working yarn in the center, pull up the first stitch, keep hold of it, put the working yarn in front, place it back. Okay, now you just go back the other direction and you do exactly like you did on this half, on your decrease down, okay? So decrease down to where it's 6 twin, 6 single, 6 twin, okay? And then I'll come back and show you how to do the adjustment, because it's on the other half of the loom. So I'm going to show you how to do the in-between row adjustments, and then I'll get you started on the increase out, which isn't really that much different either. Okay, so pause the video, get your decrease down, 6 twin, 6 single, 6 twin knits, and we'll come back. Okay, so we have our 6 and 6, and you see that's where your working yarn finished, and 6. So what you want to do now is you're going to knit 2 together 6 times. Okay, and that gets you back to your starting point. All right. Now, my suggestion would be to get you a stitch marker, which I have them sitting here, and you want to mark that peg that you want to start doing the twin knit on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go ahead and put a stitch marker there, and that way you know when to start your twin knit, okay, so that you aren't having to sit there and keep up with it all the way. All right, and we're going to knit away around the front. Don't forget, you are keeping up with your purl and knit and purl kind of thing, so that you don't lose the patterning that's going on in the front. Okay, and then so the way I have set this up, you shouldn't have to worry about doing any of that loop creating a loophole thing. Okay. Alright, so we're here, back where our twin knits are. You're going to knit 2 together 6 times. Okay. And then you're going to knit your way to the starting point, and then when you come back around is when you're going to start your increase out. And remember, you're only working the 1/2. Okay. So there's your knit 2 together 6 times, and here's your knit 6. Alright. And then you're going to knit your way to the starting point because you don't want to have to deal with twin knits. Okay. So you're just going to knit your way back to the starting point. And then you're going to be doing your thing to the front again, where you're keeping up with your knits and your purls. So you start off with that purl. Alright, and we're fixing to go back to the section that makes more sense. Okay. Where you're starting the increase out. Okay. And once you get through this section, where you get through the heel, it becomes easier to know what you're up to and what you're trying to do. Okay. So. Alright. Now, we're here. Okay, so you want to knit your way over to that first stitch marker that you have, okay? But stop just before it. Which is 6 from your ending peg, okay? But if you've marked it, you don't have to worry about keeping up. Okay, but if you're wondering, you're going to knit 12 after that last purl. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to place and pull back that top loop like we've been doing. Put the working yarn in front, and you've created your first twin knit. And then you're going to knit over 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. Now you're going to do your twin knit. Okay. And you'll start to see the pattern. Pardon my brother in the background. He's special needs, so he's going to make noise. So just pardon him. Then you're going to knit over 6 after you do your twin knit. And then you're going to knit your 2 stitches together when you do that twin knit. And then pull the next one over to do a twin knit. Okay. And at this point, it should start to look familiar with the toe. You're just going to keep doing the increase out until you get to, which one is it? See, that's first and second. Okay, you're going to end up here, I believe it is. You're going to end up here or here, and I'm pretty sure you're going to end up back here. Okay, so when you end up back here on your last twin knit, okay, you do your last twin knit, what you're going to do is you're going to knit all the way over here to your starting point. And you'll knit over those 2 together, knit the 2 together on this twin knit to get to your starting point, okay? So instead of having to go all the way around, which is where you ended up over here on the front, and you knit it all the way around, you're just going to knit to your starting point and make sure you knit the 2 together over here. So what you're going to do is you're going to pause the video, you're going to do your increase, and when you get your last twin knit done, it should be here. Well, you're going to start back like you're going to mean to go back this direction. You're going to go all the way back to the starting point, and when you get to this peg, which should have a twin knit at the end of it, you're going to knit the 2 together. So when we come back, we'll be ready to get that last twin knit done. We knit our way around, but that pretty much finishes the heel. When you do all your twin knits, you end it back over here. Go ahead and knit your way around to the end. Okay? So pause the video, get your increases done, and then we'll go from there. Okay, So I'm to my last twin knit, and I'm going to knit that over. Okay, and there's a twin knit right there on the other side, as you can see. Alright, so we're keeping in mind this should be row 4 on our front if we're keeping up with how we're doing things on this one. If we're keeping up, this is going to be row 4, and then we'll need to do one more row, and then we're back to our starting point on doing our patterning that we were doing on the full foot. And that's where I'm going to tell you, go back to what you were doing, where you were doing the foot, and then you'll do that for basically however long you want the top of a sock to be. But I'll tell you how many sets I did. Okay. Now, if you're doing my formula on the written, know that your adjustment should be the rows in between your lacing. So it's about an inch in between your lacing, approximately. And I think I calculated for an inch between my spacing. And when you do that, you're just going to need to add rows in between, and you're going to separate it. You're going to basically third it out, so make it a third, to do it on a different size loom. And you do the heel concept the same. You calculate in your thirds and take it down to your thirds, and then you just do the same process of the same rows around. It doesn't change there, that stays the same. We're going to knit over that twin knit, our last twin knit, and then knit our way around, and the heel is officially complete. And now, when doing a kiss heel, mostly what you're trying to do is you're trying to get all the pegs back down to 1, and then give yourself a single row to make sure that you're not pulling up any twin knit stitches to try and do another twin knit. Okay, that's your basic goal there, is how to do the kiss heel. And so it's more like a row and a half kind of thing. As you can see, that stays the same no matter which loom you use. That to get back down to the heel is the same. So it's a row and a half to wherever to start the increase. Okay, and so just keep that in mind if you're wanting to do this on a different loom. When you're looking at the formula, the kiss heel stays the same when it comes to, once you decrease, you knit all the way around, and then you knit to the point where you're going to start increasing again. So it's like 1.5 to, about 1.5 rows. You're just wanting to get to that point, and over here it's more like 1.25, I think. So where you're going to go all the way around and then back again, and then so it's about 1.5 rows, no matter whether you're going this half or this half. It's about 1.5, give or take. Okay, so we're going to do one more row to get us back to spot on where we were, and then at this point you'll just be repeating what you've been doing, where you do the loophole, which is the E-wrap chain section, and then 5 rows of what I'm doing right now. So this is the 5th row of this set on the front while working in a heel. It's probably the most challenging thing to keep up with, but I tried to keep it really easy so that you weren't having to struggle to keep up with that on the front, because that's where you can get yourself lost. Alright, so this is the 5th row, repeat, and then you're going to start back on the 6th row repeat where you do the E-wrap chain thing, and that's where you want to go back in the video where we start that. Okay, so this is row 5, and we've completed that set. And I'll explain what comes next and how much to do, and what you want to do next. You can take this stitch marker out at this point. You don't need it anymore. So at this point, you go back to doing what we started with here, this 6-row set here. So you go back to doing this 6-row set here in between, so where you do the E-wrap chain row, and then you do 5 rows of the rows in between. Okay, and you're going to go right back to that. So that's the next row. So go back to the video when we start the E-wrap chain row, and you're going to continue that 6-row pattern at this point, because there's your heel. It's done. All right, so your heel is done, and I'll show you what comes next. All right, so where we are at in things. All right, so we did 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we did our heel, and this is where you're at right here. Okay, and you'll actually see it because there's a color difference here. Okay, so here's where you're at. You're fixing to start this. So you do your loophole 5. So you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you're going to do it 5 times on this stuff down here. I'm going to repeat on that. So you're going to do it 5 times, and then you're going to repeat this chain row. Might I suggest, and I may pause, I may come back to the video and show you how to do this so that it makes it a little easier. When you go to start the 5th set, so when you go to start this one, the 5th set, place a stitch marker on every single stitch. And when you toss it over and you do your thing, what you're going to be able to have is what stitches you need to bring back up later in order to do this hem stitch, which is what we want to do here. So we want to do this hem stitch so it has a nice top that you can add elastic to, and it stay on but has a nice smooth top and has a hemmed edge. Okay, so again, you're here now, and you're going to continue the set like you started down here. So just go back in the video and start it, because everything's the same. And you're going to do 5 sets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. After you get your loophole done on that 5th set, when you go to do the 5th set, you want to put a stitch marker on every single stitch. I'll come back and I'll show you how that should look. And then you're going to go ahead and do your 5 rows and be ready to do your E-wrap stitch, because the last 6 stitches are going to be your hem. You're just going to knit around for 6 rows, okay, and then be ready to do a hemmed finish. All right, so pause the video and complete 1, 2, 3, 4 sets. All right, and on the 5th set, go ahead and do your E-wrap chain section. Then I'll come back, show you how to add a stitch marker to all the stitches. You'll go ahead and finish your 5. Now, if you know what I'm talking about, go ahead and finish it, and you can get to the section of the video you want. You'll do your 5 rows after that, then you'll do another E-wrap chain section, and then you switch to doing 6 rows of knit. And then you can bring those stitches that you put a stitch marker on back up, and then we'll be ready to modify bind off. And that completes the sock. So we're really, really close to doing this when you're to the cuff, okay? And honestly, if you just like the little bobbles on the sock, I'll show you what it looks like where you don't have to have the lacing in it. It has its own little flair if you don't even add the lacing to it. You could just add lace to the top. That would probably look just as good around the cuff to just add lace to it. Alright, so let me show you what it looks like without it. See, it has its own kind of texturing if you didn't even want to lace it. If you just wanted to leave it like a nice bobble up through the center, you can do that too. Okay, you don't have to add lacing to it at all if you don't want to. So, but that's completely optional if you don't want to add lacing. I'm planning on adding lacing, but I'm going to make it thinner than this. I'm probably going to make it more like just an I-cord or a chain, where I take the crow stitch and just make a chain. So it's nice and thin, it doesn't take away, it doesn't bulk up the front. And what I want to try to do is get a lace to go around the edging and up in here where it sticks out and gives a real Victorian look. So we're kind of going for a retro modern little sock here. Alright, but simple, something that's not too difficult to create. Alright, so go ahead, pause the video, complete to here, and I will show you what comes next. Okay, as you can see, there's your heel one. That's when we get after the heels. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's your fifth one. Let's see if I can get this to show. Okay, so as you can see, there's the heel one you did. Now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's one you just did that makes 5. Okay, you just did that one. You haven't done any of the rows yet. Okay, so what I have done is I've gone in and put an actual physical stitch marker on each and every stitch except for the purl stitches, because there's only 4 purl stitches. And so what you want to do is you want to take the time and you want to put a stitch marker on every single stitch except the purl stitches. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll go around after you do that, and you're going to do the row that you've been repeating for 5 times after creating your little lace hole. And all you're doing is you're taking that stitch marker, stitch, and you're tossing it over. Okay, and what this will do is later when you're ready to do your hemmed bind off, all you simply have to do is pull these up. Let me tell you, it makes it tremendously easy, and this is a secret to learning how to do a hemmed sock cuff toe up, okay, rather than cuff down. And it's easy, particularly when you go in and mark all your stitches. It's really easy. Okay, so you're just going to toss them all over, and you're going to do the row like you normally would. You're just tossing it over as a knit, okay, and you're purling purl stitches. All right, and then you're just going to continue the row you've been doing 4 more times after this one, and then you're going to do one more row that is with the E-wrap chain, and then you will do just like 5 rows of regular knit, just knit all the way around. Okay, instead of this. Now you can do this, not a big deal, you can do this easily enough. You can continue doing exactly what you've been doing. Doesn't really much matter, but I always like to simplify things. Okay, we are back at the beginning. So, you have those that you know to bring up when you get there, okay, when you get to the end. Alright, so, I'm going to tell you where you are at in this. You're right here is where you're at, right here. You're going to do that row 5 more times that we just did, where you purl 1, knit 5, purl 1, E-wrap chain, you're going to purl 1, knit 5, purl 1, knit 4, purl 1, knit 5, purl 1, knit 18. You're going to continue that 4 more times, and then you're going to do another E-wrap chain row, as you can see here. So another E-wrap chain row. This thing is having an impossible time focusing. Okay, E-wrap chain row, and then, as you can see, you just knit. You can continue doing what you've been doing, or you can just knit for 5 rows. So, out of the way, you need to do 5 rows, all right? Because what it's going to do is not going to be seen, it's going to be folded back. So if you want to continue another set, another complete set, you can. It's not going to make much difference, all right? So it's entirely up to you what you want to do on that, all right? So go ahead and pause the video, complete 4 more rows of what we just did, then do another E-wrap chain row, and then do 5 rows of knit or continuing what you're doing. Doesn't matter, you can do it either way. Just know you're not going to see it because it's a fold. All right? So pause the video and get that much done, and then we'll be ready to show you how to do a hemmed bind off. So where you pull those stitches back, toss them over, and do a modified bind off. All right? So go ahead and pause the video, get that much done. Okay. Here we go. As you can see, there's your rows and there's your markers. Alright. And here's the front. And you see your last one here. Alright, so now it's time to do our hemmed bind off. But you know what you got. Now, you know that that's the, let's start with the beginning. Okay, you know your purl stitch because it looks different than the rest. Okay. So you know that this one is going to go right here. Okay. So at this point, what you can do is just pick up the next one, put it on, and the next one, and put it on. So you're going to do this all the way around, and make sure you skip the ones that are supposed to be pearls. So, for instance, you knew that was a pearl, you're going to skip that one, and just put on the next one, okay? Alright, so go ahead and pause the video and put all your stitch markers on the loom, okay, like all the way around. So do it all the way around, and after you've done that, go ahead and take off the stitch markers. Okay, so that when we come back, you should see 2 stitches on the pegs. You should see 2 stitches on the pegs. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, get all those on, skip the ones that were purl stitches, and then we should be ready to finish up our sock. Okay, as you can see, there's 2 on every peg except for the purl pegs. Now what you want to do is you want to toss over the pegs, get it down to 1 stitch. You want to do that all the way around. Then once you've done that, once you've gone and tossed all your loops around all the way around the loom, you'll be ready to do your bind off, okay? And I can show you how that's done, okay? But you want to go ahead and toss all your loops all the way around, and then once you do that, you're going to do what I call is called the modified bind off, and this originally stems from Loom Hat. So you're going to knit pegs 1 and 2. It may be a little tight to knit that 1 over. You're going to take it back 1, toss the bottom loop over, wave it over 1. Now, typically you would just knit the next peg, but you're going to go back to the first one, knit, and knit. And this makes a clean bind off, but also stretchy enough to where it does nicely for a sock finish, okay? So, again, you start with the first peg, knit, and knit, okay? And you're going to do this all the way around, okay? So, I'm going to tell you that you're going to toss all the loops over, then go in and do your modified bind off just like I showed you, and then you'll be done with the sock, so to speak. Okay, and you'll need to go in and do some stretching and that kind of thing to kind of get that. But I'll show you how to add the elastic, and at this point we're ready to add lace to the inside and around the edge. Now you can choose to make it. I have some lace videos where you can add, or you can choose to buy some lace and sew it in yourself. Okay, and that way you don't have to go in and make the lace, but it's up to you. I have lace videos where it's shorter lace, longer lace. It's up to you how you want to do it. Alright, but you can either buy the short lace to go around this. You don't even have to add lace if you don't want to around this. You can add lace just to the top if you want. It's really up to you where you want to add the lace at. But yeah, so there's the lace you can add, or you can go and see my videos in my lace trim, and you can see how to make some lace to add to the sock. Okay, so this finishes up the sock. You can have it just like this. The only thing you're going to want to know how to do is to add the elastic, and that's actually really easy, and I'll show you how to do that. But go ahead and finish your sock up, and then I'll show you how to add the elastic, and then you'll want to find a lace you can sew on, or you can just buy lace. It's entirely up to you on how you want to do this. And then you'll want to do an I-cord of some sort, or you can buy a beautiful ribbon that you can lace inside these, because these have little holes. See, they're holed. Okay, and this is where your creativity comes in. This is basic sock, and at this point you can buy a ribbon to lace into it. You can buy a lace to sew on for nice trimming, and then you just need to have your elastic to put in, because the elastic is going to make a big difference. Because right now when I put it on, it doesn't really stick around the ankle or the leg like it should. And we just want to use some light elastic, and it'll stick on there really good. So, pause the video, complete your sock, and I'll show you how to add elastic. Okay, now what you're going to run into when you finish is it's going to be really stretched. Here is what I like to do. Slide your hook up in there and just pull some. And what that does is it sets your stitches up, okay? You just do that all the way around, and that stops that look, okay? You can see it sets the stitches. Alright, so you want elastic, and this is the size that I use, but you just want a real thin elastic, something you can feed through the stitches, and then you'll want a stitch marker so that you can feed it through it, okay? And what I like to do is I like to wrap it around my part of my leg it's going to be worn, and give myself a little extra to do 2 half knots, okay? Now, find out where you want to add it, and then you're going to just send it through. So unlike sewing, you don't really need an opening. You can just start sliding it through, okay? Just slide it through where you want the knot to be, alright? And then you just keep sliding it through that hemmed edge, okay? And you'll feel it. Keep an eye on your end over here. You don't want to lose it up into the sock, okay? But this will make it where it stays on the foot nicely. Alright. Okay. But you want to make sure this end doesn't go through, and if you want to try to pin it to the outside so that it doesn't go through, that is a good plan too. So you want to try to get it right back through the hole you started with. See? Alright, I'm going to pull it through, take that off, and then you're going to half knot it twice. Okay. Make sure not to lose your ends. Gave myself enough room to half knot twice. Okay, then we want to really make sure it's nice and tight. It's going on your leg. Okay, now if you don't want that much bulk there, you can cut it down a little bit, but don't cut it down too much. Okay, now you can just keep pulling on it until that goes up in there and hides itself. Okay, and there is how you add elastic to the top. And you see it automatically gives it a nice snugger look about it. It doesn't look so stretched, so that when you put it on your foot, it should sit nicely on the ankle. Okay. Now, at this point, you have your sock. It's entirely up to you what you want to do. You can leave it just like this. That's fine. When you go to sew in the lace, you're going to send a needle. See if I can get it to focus. You're going to send a needle through each and every one of these, because these little notches, and the reason being is you want that lace to kind of ruffle, and you want it to be able to stretch when you put it on. Okay, so you want it to ruffle. And when you go and sew lace on to this, you want to sew it right on to this edging here that's on the other side, and you want to sew that where the lace comes away from the lacing area. And you want to do every single stitch, okay? And you want to do it with like a needle and thread instead. And just make it all nice and neat all the way around, okay, if you choose to add the lace. But that's how you make a what I call a corset sock, and that's using the kiss heel and toe and a hemmed top with added elastic. Okay, so add your flourishing that you want. So add your lace to the top and add your lace around. And if you're wanting to do, you can do ribbon that goes through the little holes and just lace like you would a shoelace. You can do that. Ribbon would probably be prettier, classier looking than if you use just regular shoelaces, so it's entirely up to you how you want to do that. But you just lace it like a normal shoe. If you want it to have more of a corset effect, you can split the lacing into two. Start from here, lace down to the middle, start from here, lace down to the middle, tie it together. I would suggest using smaller ribbons so that you don't have like a whole lot of bulk around the ankle. Alright, so lots of different options you can do. So hopefully that was helpful, and you have a new technique of how to do a hemmed sock toe up and how to make it sit around the ankle and have a nice clean top with a toe up. Okay, so there you have it.